So I've always been short. Probably one of the shortest people that I know, which doesn't say a lot, but still. No matter what, I've always been the short one. I don't think there's actually been a time where I can actually say that I was taller than someone else in my age range. The closest thing I can come up with right now is this one girl that I knew named Angela, but even then, she was still the taller one. Wanna know by how much? 1 inch. 2.5 centimeters really screwed me over, huh? I was almost always the last one in the line whenever they sorted us in height back in elementary school, and whenever there was someone behind me, they'd grow out in a few months, so I'd end up being the last one anyway. So how short am I? Well, as you saw from the previous graph, I'm about 157.48 centimeters, or about 5 feet 2 inches in freedom terms. Which, in case you can't tell, is embarrassingly short. How embarrassing? Well, when I first went to Google while making this video and searched up "is 5 feet 2 inches short," the first result that I got was for women. So either Google is a viewer of this channel and knew exactly what they were doing with this search result to make fun of me, or I'm just that short. So what does a life of being as short as myself actually entail? Well, it has what you'd expect. That door frame that everyone seems to love to hit whenever they enter the classroom? Nope, I have to be actively jumping and reaching for the thing like I'm a Brooklyn Italian man, and even then, I'm lucky if I even graze the thing. Getting lost in a crowd because everyone's towering over you? Yep, been there, done that. Gotta reach something that just so happens to be really high up. I gotta get myself a chair to reach that thing. All in all, not very convenient. The world was made for big people, by big people, and I'm not a big people. So as you imagine, that leads to a few funny stories. Let's get into those. So the first story, and actually most of these stories, take place in elementary school, because that's when I was really short. We used to almost always have recess right after lunch, so most of the time I'd be carrying around my lunchbox everywhere. And something that I always found really entertaining for some reason was whenever I threw my lunchbox straight into the air and see if I could land it right side up again. Kinda like a bottle flip, if you were around for those. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's exactly the reason why. So back when people used to think that bottle flips were really freaking cool, me and my friend Max were really into them. Thing is though, people used reusable water bottles to flip, and I didn't have one of those because I had a reusable metal one. So instead, thinking we were absolute geniuses, me and Max decided that I could just flip my entire lunchbox with everything in it instead. And so, that's what I did. I think once we managed to land it on its side on some random bench and we thought we were super cool. But anyway, side tangent over. I was throwing my lunchbox, as normal, until one time, it didn't come down. And I look up, and apparently, one of the really long straps of my lunchbox at the time got stuck on one of the tetherball poles on the blacktop. This was not good, because as I already established, I'm barely 5 feet already, currently, and I'm 16. Imagine how short I was when I was 9 back in 2016. Oh jeez.
What's up, dude?
I got my lunchbox stuck on the tetherball pole. Could you maybe, grab it for me?
Oh yeah, I could totally reach that for you. Doesn't mean I'm going to, though.
Why not? You're at least a little taller than me, so you have longer arms than I do. You can totally reach that.
Well, I'm not the one who threw my lunchbox onto the tetherball pole, am I? Get it yourself.
So there I am, just trying very pathetically to reach my thing. Meanwhile, my friend, who could absolutely reach the lunchbox, isn't doing anything to help at all. Well, okay, I guess he was giving me encouragement, but did he really think I needed him for that? I already had enough encouragement to get the thing down, because if I didn't get it down, my mom was gonna get really mad at me. So basically, Max was being kinda useless.
Go on, a little more. You could do it. You can reach it.
Shut up! Eventually though, I finally managed to get this thing down, and I'm in a pretty bad mood by this point because I'd spent the entire recess trying to get this thing down. And I kid you not, by the time that I do, Max comes up to me and he's like,
Hey Mooney, check out this really big stick I found in the schoolyard. Maybe you could use it to help reach your lunch.
As if he wasn't just standing there this entire time, not doing anything, and I just stare at him like... So does anyone else know the Scholastic Book Fairs? Basically, if you didn't, the Scholastic Book Fair was basically a little miniature store type thing, where you could basically just buy books from your school. I used to read a lot as a kid, so I went to the book fair a lot. I still read now, but I won't lie that school's taken quite a lot of the fun out of it, but that's a video for another day. Every time I came, I'd check and see if they had The Magic Tree House, I Survived, The Who Was books, Captain Underpants, and so on. But the one that I always look forward to the most was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. If you want to know what the most recent book was that released at the time of this story, I want to say it was either The Getaway or Wrecking Ball. So book 12 or 14 respectively. But it doesn't really matter which because there's only a 2-year gap, so take your pick. So anyway, I go to the book fair during lunch and I walk up to the cashier and I'm like, hey, are you in stock of the new Diary of a Wimpy Kid books?
Oh, those? Those sell like hotcakes. I'm not sure if we have any. I'll have to check. If you want, you can sign a pre-order form and I can reserve a copy for you. So that way you can pick it up later.
Okay, yeah. So I fill out the form they hand me and I'm good to go. I now have a reservation. They'd actually briefly changed the policy when it came to certain stuff at the book fair, one of them being reservations. You could make them, but you had to be a certain age to pick them up. But I was in the age range of 10 and up at that point, so I'm very mature and would probably be fine. Unfortunately, I had other stuff to do, so I couldn't get it right away, but eventually I popped back in to get my book. Hey, I'm here to get my book.
Your book?
I was kinda surprised that he didn't remember, but at the same time, thinking back, he probably had to deal with hundreds of kids a day, and he probably just wanted to go home by this point, so I don't blame him. Yeah, the book I pre-ordered last week, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I filled up a form for it and everything.
Oh, okay. That makes our lives much easier. Give me that.
Before doing anything else, he double-checked on the computer to make sure I was telling the truth. You know, to make sure I wasn't committing identity fraud or something, as a 10-year-old.
Okay, great. Everything seems to be in order, so make sure... Oop, wait a minute.
What's wrong?
Well, nothing's wrong per se, but you have to be a certain age and, you kind of don't look like that,
Yeah, I think you can see where this is going. I looked so short that I looked like I wasn't a part of my age bracket.
Do you have your ID card on you?
Do I really need it?
Well, I'm gonna need something, so either that or you could get your mom.
That quick reality check struck dread into my 10-year-old heart. Cause as we all know, the most important part of life is what your fellow classmates in Miss Charles's class think about you. So, in order to avoid having to bring my mom in here and possibly embarrassing me, what I instead decided to do, with my amazing logic, was to get my ID card. And to do that, I decided to dump the entire contents of my backpack onto the ground and cause a bigger scene for myself rather than just, getting my mom, or digging through my backpack like a normal person. Eventually, I find my ID card, hand it over, the cashier's looking at me like I'm a weirdo because why wouldn't he? Everyone else is probably looking at me too. I pick up all the trash I dumped on the floor, take my book, and you know what? After all that, the book was terrible. Let's get back on topic though. Up until this point, most of these stories had been fun, innocent, lighthearted stuff. And while I'm not gonna go full dark or anything, this next part is gonna be a little less comedic. Personally, I think the worst part about being short is the fact that everyone's so quick to look down on me. And no, I don't mean physically. I meant more metaphorically, For as long as I can remember, I've constantly been mistaken for being way younger than I actually am. And I don't blame them, because if you saw someone my size, what would you think? But the point where I draw the line is when some people begin to treat me as if I really was younger and didn't just look younger. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, here's an example. A pretty recent one, actually. A couple months ago, in my junior year chemistry class, we were assigned to do an experiment, measure some chemicals, and then write down our findings on a piece of paper and turn it in. Since it involved chemicals though, the teacher obviously didn't trust everyone to do it properly. And so, she split us all up into groups of 4, and we would all do it together as a group, and then just write it down on the piece of paper and turn it in on behalf of everyone in that group. I can talk about how much I don't like group projects some other time, but all you gotta know is, I got paired up with pretty eccentric people. You have that one jock type kid who tries to act really funny, but he's not, and lucky me, 2 gossip girls. I'm generally pretty quiet in most of my classes. Sometimes I might know people and talk to them because I like them. Other times I might ask someone I don't know for a pencil or something. But generally I stay pretty to myself. So I'm doing the experiment and filling out the paper, basically carrying the group at this point, while the rest of them are talking. They don't really pay any attention to me, which is completely fine, because I didn't really want to talk to them anyway. But then they do start talking to me, and the moment that they do, I know exactly what they're doing. So you know that overly sweet baby-sounding voice that moms or teachers do for younger kids, where they try and sound extra nice, talk really slowly, and in really simplistic terms so the children can understand what they're saying? Yeah, that thing. They basically did that every time they said a word in my general direction. And all jokes aside, it really hurts to be treated like that. These people were supposed to be my classmates, equals, peers, and yet despite that, they still treated me as if I wasn't, even if I was the one carrying the team. Just because you can look down on me physically doesn't mean that I should be looked down upon in every other sense. My height shouldn't be the deciding factor about whether or not I get respect. Being short doesn't make me a mentally inept idiot. I've still lived 16 years of life on this planet Earth and worked my way here, so I deserve as much respect as anyone else did. If you're gonna show the jock respect who didn't do any work, then why disrespect the person who's filling out the worksheet while everyone else watches Instagram Reels? The reason why is because the jock can look you straight in the face, so you see him as an equal. The other kid is way shorter, so obviously you can look down on them, because they're clearly lesser than you. Okay, moving on. Being treated like that can be absolutely crushing. And if anyone else relates to this in any way at all, I think you can agree that it can be really demoralizing. But at the end of the day, it really shouldn't matter. You can't let that change the way that you think about yourself. They can judge your outward appearance all they like, but what really matters is who you are as a person. And no one else knows that better than you do. You can't control things like height. Stuff like that is set in stone, and you can't really do anything about that. But what you can control is who you are as a person and what you do with your life. And as long as you're happy with yourself, then that's the only opinion that really matters.